yo! What up, though? You feel me, though? What up? If you made it to this part 4, about big cities versus small towns, if you made it this far, I appreciate you for riding with me. The universe is going to bless you. Big time. Big time. Believe me when I tell you. But let's get into it. This part here is going to be about reinventing yourself as a town or as a person, but especially as a town. And we're going to talk about how this relates to Black people exclusively. So first thing is, I got a lot on my chest because Johnstown, small towns have traumatized me. And I hated it. Being 18 years old, knowing that people in big cities have options that you don't have, can go places and do things that you can't. This made it horrible. I hated it. I loved it when I got out. And moving to Pittsburgh, I've had a few bad things happen, but I can say really overall it's been good, long as I've stuck with the right people. When I hang around the right people, the right things happen for the most part. If I hang around bad people, then bad things can potentially happen. Depends on what circle you run with. It's as simple as that. But sometimes you may be born into the wrong circle, or you may grow up in the wrong circle, and that can get you into trouble too. But you got to break those ties and go do something else with your life besides being hood. Now, what I want to speak about for real is reinventing yourself as a city or a town. When you think about the history of Pittsburgh, it was a steel town, steel city. But of course, before it was steel city, it was a glass city. And before that, the Indians were living here. That's the original Pittsburgh. People ain't trying to go there. But you had the Indians, you had a glass town, then you had a steel town. Until like the 70s and 80s. And when it became a steel city, people were able to work, make a living, didn't have to graduate high school. But one thing they always say is, the old folks will tell you, is how dirty the air was, how dirty it was. Those steel mills ran all the way from Homestead, all the way down 2nd Avenue in Hazelwood. They were on every river damn near. That's why they have them little railroad depots and stuff like that close to the rivers too, because they used to ship that steel to different parts of the country. Ship it by boat, ship it by train. So there were steel mills everywhere. Braddock, Homestead, wherever they could put one. Probably Naval Island out there in the west part of the county. Probably a steel mill everywhere. Whatever old building is empty, probably was a steel mill if they're real big, or it had something to do with it. So there were lots of jobs in the steel industry or industries related to the steel industry. So it was off the chain with the jobs you could get. But also they talk about how the dirt would fly through the air, how the atmosphere was nasty here, and how if you wore a white shirt, or if you hung white sheets out on the clothing line, or hung anything that was light colored out on the clothesline to be hung, or if you wore light colors, your clothes were going to get dirty. The dust from the steel mills was going to get on your clothes. When the steel mills moved out of the country and things changed, Pittsburgh reinvented itself. They do a lot of stuff with the tech industry and other industries, and you can see the transformation. I don't know every single thing that's going on. I apologize. I need to study more, but I'm giving you the brief. You know what I mean? The synopsis. Pittsburgh has reinvented itself. They're trying to clean up the air. They're probably trying to work on cleaning up the river, because I know probably a lot of waste got dumped in that river back in the day because they didn't have the regulations. But I'm sure they're trying to clean that up too. That's what needs to happen to make Pittsburgh the so-called most livable city. And the problem with a lot of small towns is they don't want to, they're not willing to, or they don't know how, or it's very hard for them to reinvent themselves. And when you reinvent yourself, you can't just do one sector. You have to do economically, socially, sports, and infrastructure, and a lot of different things. You got to have, public transportation. You got to repave the roads. You got to build new buildings. You got to start having more events. You got to find a way to bring in new jobs or help people open up businesses. And that's what you got to do when you're trying to like reinvent yourself. And I think a lot of small towns have got stuck in the era of manufacturing. But I think some are trying to come along. But you got to have entertainment. You got to have places like Dave and Buster's. You got to have places people can go to do art. You got to have places where people can go to meet at and socialize. You got to have groups for people that are interested in gaming. They might be interested in playing Minecraft or whatever. They want to socialize in a group. You got to have that space for them. You got to try to create that. You know, if they want to knit and do sweaters, you got to create that space. If they want to do urban farming, you got to create that space, because all that sort of stuff is going on in the major cities. It was not, you know, all of it, most of it. So there was like 10 different like groups you can get into, a whole bunch. And with meetup.com, you can start having those meetups and stuff like that. So that makes it, you know, most official. It changes the landscape of how a city is operating. And we're going through another change. It's going to be more, you know, virtual, more online. It's going to be a new world. And people who get stuck in the print world are going to be stuck and they're going to be left behind. You either roll with the future or you get left behind by the future. And that's what's happening with a lot of small towns. People are moving out by the caseload because who wants to live somewhere that's not advanced or at least close to being caught up? Who does? Nobody. One thing I'll say is, sure, there's some good jobs in small towns, and sure, there's some small towns that are an exception to the rule, but we know on average that town is not going to have the same amenities. Like, for instance, if I live in Pittsburgh, I can go to a place that has free arcade games. I can go to a couple other places where you got to pay to get in, but I can go to Kennywood Park. That's another thing. A lot of small towns don't have anything like an amusement park. Like, if you think about it, if you had something like Disney World, or even a smaller version of something like that, that could really pull people in, they may be interested. You know what I mean? Or if there's a bunch of small towns together and each town has a different attraction or something like that, that could possibly work to hold people. But, you know, you got something like Kennywood Park, the water park. You know, small towns ain't going to be able to compete with that because there's nothing to do. There's several different places you can go. There's a place in North Hills to do laser tag. And even if you're not driving, you can get to these places on the bus. That's what makes the difference. It's all the things and amenities and luxuries a big city has that a small town, you know, does not have in most cases. Or if they have it, the infrastructure wore out. It hasn't been revamped in a long time. People do not want to do things that are old. People want to do things that are new or at least rebuilt. And that's what it's all about. That's the thing that I would say makes the big cities better. And you can't sit there and say that, you know, oh, less crime, because most of the small towns are dangerous now. Can't say that no more. You know, too many drugs in the big city, drugs in the small town. You know, but in the bigger city, there's better chances for entrepreneurship, fostering ideas, education, the whole nine, in most cases. So that being said, I'm outie, no doubty. And I'm going to do a special extra video talking about, you know, black folks in big towns and small cities. I'm going to say, my bad, in big cities and small towns. I cannot get it right for nothing. Damn, I can't do one video without screwing up. But it's all right.